Governor Northam's channel. Today, we will be talking about the vaccination rollout specifically to employers. I appreciate everything that you've done this past year for the pandemic. I think the light at the end of the tunnel is coming, fingers crossed, and that's really with this vaccination campaign. We want to make sure that all our workers, we've worked really hard to make sure that they are safe on the job, but specifically to do that extra safety is making sure that all employees and workers have access to the vaccines that have been rolled out. So today we'll be talking a little bit about a little update on vaccinations with Dr. Danny Avula, talking about where we are in the levels of and what that looks like at the different regions. And then we also have an employer toolkit that we would like to roll out. This is fantastic. I've reviewed it. It has different ways to communicate to your workers, employees, as well as it has posters and designs, and we'll go through that as well so you can see the options. And then we'll have a question and answer at the end. If you have specific questions for Dr. Avola, for anyone on the workforce team or the business community, we also have Deputy Secretary Cass Rasnick here who can answer questions specifically to the vaccination rollouts and you in your role as an employer. So I really appreciate everyone being on this call, and I'm going to pass it over to Deputy Secretary Cass Rasnick, who will be talking, just kind of giving a welcome. And she's been done a fantastic role this past, really making sure that businesses have a voice, specifically during COVID-19. And so I appreciate all her hard work that she has done this past year. So, Deputy Secretary.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dr. Healy, and just want to reemphasize those comments. We really appreciate you all taking the time out of your evening to be with us and really think through how we make sure we are contributing to that vaccine rollout. And we know that businesses play such an important part in the communities that they live in and in their workers' lives, and that you all have done so much over the past year, sacrificed a lot, pivoted a lot, changed your business models. A lot of you have helped us manufacture and source personal protective equipment when we were short on that, and just really thought through how we can best all kind of band together and contribute to our communities and to the safety of our workforce. And so we just want to, from the Commerce and Trade side, be here to say thank you and appreciate the work that you guys have done over the past year. And like Dr. Healy said, light at the end of the tunnel with this vaccine. That's what we think is going to be necessary to get us back to the new normal and will contribute to getting, all the businesses back up and running at full occupancy. So I think that's probably it for me. I see Dr. Avula has joined us. He's next on the list. So Dr. Healy, would you like to introduce Dr. Avula?
Sure. That we know that Governor Northam, as we all work very hard in his office, I do want to thank Virginia Department of Health. I know they've worked extremely, extremely hard, as well as many people on this call right now. But Governor Northam knew to get shots in arms, to meet the goals, and to be nationally ranked. I think in our vaccination rollout, he had to hire a person who can hit the ground running with his background in public health, as working at health department. He knows how to reach the people that need these vaccinations the most, as well as be strategic about what that looks like. And so we welcome Dr. Danny Avola here. He's going to talk really about the employer side and how you can help, but we really want all Virginians to make sure that they have access to that vaccination, and we want to encourage them to do that. So Dr. Avola.
Thanks, Megan. Really appreciate it. So glad to be with you all just in the nick of time, apparently. Thanks for holding off for me, Megan. So I was just on a call with all of our local health directors, really thinking through where we are and where we're heading, because this is a pretty important pivot point for us. We're getting to the point where most communities are working through their 1B population. There are a lot of communities that have moved into 1C. So for many of you, your employees probably fall into the essential workers in the 1B and 1C categories. And so, there are districts that have already made that jump and districts that likely will be moving that direction next week. And then all of that will lead us to a move into phase 2 for all of Virginia. And we're really trying to nail down, based on the expected allocation of vaccine that's coming into the state, the timeline for us to be able to work through all of the individuals who have pre-registered into phase 1. When might that be? The president has set a goal of May 1st being the the point at which every Virginian has, or every American has, access to the vaccine, that we open up eligibility by May 1st. Virginia will be significantly ahead of that. I mean, at least a week, maybe more. And so I think really kind of putting the final details in place of when that switch over to phase 2 might happen. And likely it's not going to happen all at once, because there are really significant differences in the demand for vaccination in different communities. We have places like the Eastern Shore and Pennsylvania, Danville, that have really saturated their demand in phase 1, and they're ready to move. They're ready to move into phase 2. And then you have places like Northern Virginia and the Richmond area and Tidewater that just are more populous, and they have more people who want to be vaccinated. And so we are really having to shift allocation. We started this about a week or two ago, and now even more aggressive about shifting allocation to those more populous regions of the state, so that we can all progress to phase 2 together. So I think that day is coming very soon. We'll probably start this transition period here in the next couple of weeks. And then what does it mean for you as employees? Well, actually, before I jump into that, one other comment. I mean, things have really picked up pace. I mean, the rate at which we've been vaccinating Virginia, we're now at 3.7 million doses administered. About 29% of our population has at least one dose, and about 15.5, 16%, something like that, have been fully vaccinated. And that number is going to grow quickly, because we're getting more and more of the one-dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Just heard on a call earlier today with the National Governors Association that our J&J allocation is going to jump significantly next week. We got 49,000 doses this week. That's 1,000 doses next week. What we get in the state allocation, the federal government is really committed to creating access to vaccine through pharmacies. So this retail pharmacy program is a big part of the federal strategy to get vaccine out into every corner of the country, because pharmacies have such large footprints. So in addition to the 122,000 doses coming into the state, we have another 122,000 doses that are coming through the retail pharmacy program, which will really expand the number of pharmacies all over the state that that provide more access to vaccines. So big jump in allocation this week for the entire country, and it just means that we're going to be able to progress through our eligibility tiers even faster. So for those employers that are already in 1B, hopefully you guys have already made connections with your local health departments or with us at the state health department. There are a number of situations where employers have either contracted their own vaccinators, or because they already have OC Health on site, they have vaccinating capacity. They've gotten those individuals or that occupational health unit approved as a CDC approved provider, and then we've just given vaccine directly to them to cover their patient population, their worker population. In other scenarios, they've contracted a vendor, and that vendor is an approved CDC provider. Again, we've just sent them whatever their anticipated uptake is. We send them the doses. There are a few scenarios where it's a smaller employer, they don't have access to those resources, where we've been able to pair them up with a pharmacy or the National Guard or some other kind of partner that would be able to come in and do the vaccination for you. So like I said, the federal pharmacy chains are getting lots of vaccine, and some of them are able to kind of scale down and do tailored clinics for 50 to 100 people that might work in your setting. So I think your first step is really based on your classification, if you're in 1B or if your community's in 1C, and now you have employees that are moving into that, to reach out to your local health department or to reach out to us here at the state. Megan Green, who's on that call, has been doing a lot of this coordination. And then I think as we move into phase 2, what we're really planning towards is more open scheduling. And so we're figuring out the details of how that'll work, since so many different entities are using different scheduling platforms. It may be as simple as, an aggregator site. So right now there's something called vaccinefinder.org. And if you go to vaccinefinder.org, you will see all of the pharmacies who are actively vaccinating. And then that'll take you to a link to those websites to be able to schedule an appointment. I was on CVS.com yesterday. There's 3 or 4 localities around the state that have available appointments right now. That's only going to grow as our allocation grows, as the partners grow, as we move into phase 2 and we start scheduling appointments, 4 to 8 weeks out. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity and lots of different pathways for people to get vaccinated. So let me pause there and see what questions that takes for the group.
Sure. So thanks so much, Dr. Avula, for that. What we were going to do is move to show you the toolkit, which might answer some questions, and then we're going to open up for question answers. I already do have some questions that were submitted, but please, on the YouTube channel, there's a place that you can also submit questions. So please do that as well. So one of the questions that I usually get, I've gotten from a lot of employers, is like, how do I communicate to my employees about the vaccination? What does that look like? And I really appreciate Dr. Avula talking about the steps, but really, what are those tools that you can use in a toolkit? And so that's some things that we wanted to develop to build awareness around the vaccinations, if it's through handouts, through posters, through social media, to work with your employees. So I'm going to pass it off to Jamila Frazier, and she is managing partner of Green Street Group, and they've done a fantastic job of marketing materials and branding of the vaccine and how we can encourage more and more workers to get the vaccine. So I'm going to turn it over to Jamila. Oh, you might be on mute.
Here I go. That's 5 o'clock. Thanks for joining us so much at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to talk about Essential Workers Toolkit. I will say, when they came to us and talked to us about this idea of the toolkit, we were extremely happy at Green Street Communication. I'm joined with Shana Kemp, my business partner, and Rebecca Landau, the visual communications person who helped kind of put this whole brainchild together and take us across the finish line. But I thought it was really important and impactful that they were selecting a small business to do it, because we are essential workers. And if you've been a small business owner, you understand that you're doing multiple tasks. You may be taking out the trash, you may be cleaning the windows, and in this case, you're designing and you're coming up with all these ideas. And so we wanted to create a toolkit that was going to be purposeful and really work for all people. So Shana is going to introduce us for the very first time, sort of like a drum roll, the beginning of the Essential Workers Toolkit. Here it comes. So at first glance, you kind of see all the materials at first glance what's going to be available to you. You see the Myths and Truth fact sheet there. There are posters, there's stickers, there's buttons, there's social media, there's information for your desktop. There's a whole myriad of different tools that are in this toolkit that are going to make it very easy for you as an employer to get information out to your employees. And we wanted to design specifically for that. It is targeted for the workplace, related to outreach for marginalized communities. So we wanted to make sure that the folks that were in this toolkit really represented the people that lived in the Commonwealth. That was extremely important to us. Also, a little bit about the overview of the toolkit. It is really geared towards essential workers, transportation, manufacturing, agriculture, retail, similar fields, teachers. Anyone that is an essential worker can be able to utilize this kit. Another great thing about this toolkit is that you can literally put your logo on this and make it all personalized to your business. So we're taking all the hard work out of this. You don't have to go to a communication firm to get this done. It is all there for you. In this toolkit, you're going to have everything you need. You have an introductory letter, the key messagings, the FAQs for vaccination for employers as well as employees. You get a slide deck for informational meetings. So if a lot of your employees are working remotely, you can easily do a Zoom call like we're doing right now, or you can also do this in your conference room as long as you're practicing physical distancing. There's a newsletter content there for you to put on a shareable blurb or a hub for your employees to be able to see online. There's a letter for employees from employers, so it's already there. There's a template there for you. So the only thing you have to do is plug and play. And then you have your I was vaccinated collateral, a dose of reality collateral. So there's stickers in there. There's more social media items in there, everything you need in there to literally, again, personalize this for your business. We have an 11 by 17 poster that can go into windows throughout your entire company, and also flyers if you would like to place them in your doors as employees are coming in. More importantly, this is 508 compliant. For our friends in the disabled community, we know this is vitally important, so we wanted to make sure you had a toolkit that was really going to work. On top of that, we're putting it in the top 6 languages that are spoken in the Commonwealth: Spanish, Korean, Mandarin, Arabic, Vietnamese, and Tagalog. But we have other languages available to you as well, over 100 of them. Now, getting into what it really looks like behind door number 2, the FAQ sheets and key messages. So here they are, they're bold, they're bright, they really tell the facts. We got down to the meat of what is important to employees as well as employers. We made sure we had the top information there. We have icons here to kind of direct the employees' eyes to, making it very easy for them to be able to read and take this information and apply it in the workplace. Here are some more examples, FAQs, and there's lots of them. Again, what I love about it so much is at the very bottom where you see the Vaccinate VA. Shane, if you can just take your mouse and go around there. Again, you can place this and add your logo there. And if you have questions at all, I'll put my name in the chat. Absolutely reach out to me. I will be happy to walk you through this. We can even provide some of the source files for some folks who would like to make it even more personalized and make sure that everything looks crisp and is ready to go. More key messaging. These are the top messages that we're trying to get out across Virginia. So they're there. Feel free to copy these messages and put them into your own kind of correspondence that you want to send out to folks. There's lots of graphic images here as well. Again, really for a population, we realize that a lot of people speak Spanish in a lot of our workplaces. And so we wanted graphics that really caught the eye and told the story very quickly, very simply. Now, the PowerPoint slide, I think this is really good, especially if you're truly trying to get across to your employees the importance of vaccination. A lot of companies are doing vaccination pushes, really trying to get their employees to understand the importance of it. So we've gone into the weeds and provided all the information that we know that's going to come across your desk. We have true or false questions on here about where the virus started, information about communities of colors, what to expect when you're in the line. Take action now. You want to spread the word. You want to make sure everyone understands about this so we can all get back to a real good sense of normalcy here. More information about the vaccination, driving people back to CDC's website. And then also there's posters and information for people who really want to get together in your company to be able to get together and say, I want to do a huge push in our company to make sure everyone around us is actually taking the vaccination. And we have that available as well as one of the PowerPoint slides. More slides. Again, this is what it could look like in your break room. There are posters in the background. You can kind of see how your company is going to benefit really well from this. It's kind of checking off different things that you want to get across to your employees that you don't have the time to do right now. We're making it that easy. Again, plug and play. That's what you need to be thinking about as you look at this entire toolkit. More examples of the collateral. This is a poster here, Myths and Truth. I think this will be really appropriate in a break room, or again, if you have a large warehouse, you may want to make these even larger and put them on an easel. All of that is available in the toolkit. And these are examples of 8x11, excuse me, flyers here. I think what's so great about this toolkit, it really shows the diversity of the Commonwealth. But more importantly, the power that you have in diversity in your workplace. And so we made sure that all of our advertisements showed women, men, and people of different ethnicities. And so you'll see all of that in the toolkit. There's lots of information. We're driving people to go to vaccinate.virginia.gov to know more about the vaccination. And again, the colors are appropriate, and more importantly, they're 508 compliant. More information, Myths and Truth. This is our 11x17 posters. In a few moments, you'll see what it can look like on a window to display at your company. Again, lots of information. These are just a few examples of what's in the toolkit. There's a whole host of other items. So we hope that you enjoy them. Also, let us know of different things that are coming up in your workplace that maybe you want to add an additional piece to it. We'd be happy to add those to your workplace because again, this toolkit is supposed to be designed for you in mind. And more posters and flyers. And this is what I was explaining to you earlier. Shane, if you can go back really quickly. We decided to do this mock-up right here so you can see how quickly an adhesive background can be in your window. Employees are walking by it. They quickly see the information about Vaccinate. They get on their phones and they vaccinate very quickly. So all of these things are included in the toolkit to make it very easy for you. more digital media, because we know that a lot of companies are on LinkedIn, they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, and they really connect with their employees that way. So we've also done a whole social media toolkit, lots of different designs, information. Again, remember the different languages that we have available. And again, more importantly, the diversity, which is extremely important as you're reaching out to your frontline workers to let people know that you appreciate what they bring to the company. So this is just a few examples of some of the social media items we have, what it would look like on a tablet. So you can see people are quickly scrolling. It would look really dynamic with your logo on there. So definitely think about personalizing these things to fit your needs. And these are web banners. You want to put on the edge of your website, your lower thirds to really kind of tag and personalize your information. They're there for you too. And I think we're coming to an end of the presentation. Lots of more information to share. I'll stop there because I'm sure that there's lots of questions. We had a lot of fun putting this together, and we are always looking at ways to improve this toolkit to make sure that it's going to be really useful for you at your job.
Well, great. Thank you so much for this. I think it's awesome. I'm just thinking about like when I can start downloading it and putting it where, and, as we oversee my agencies, state agencies, I think it'll be really helpful. And so we're excited to get this out. So I really appreciate all your hard work and your team's work on this. I think it looks great. So we have a couple of questions on that in the chat. So again, if you have any questions at all, please, on the YouTube channel, please put that in the chat and we'll be able to read these. So some questions that we have received is, the first one is, will employers have an opportunity to assist in scheduling vaccinations for our employees? It's a question. Our firm has tried to guide employees to register with the VDH, pharmacies, healthcare providers, and other sources. It would be helpful to register our employees for a vaccination clinic. So I think that's to you, Dr. Ebola.
Yeah, thanks. So I think there's a couple of different pathways here. One, if your folks all qualify into 1B or 1C, or they fall into the general population, 1A and 1B, to go ahead and pre-register them, 1B and 1C, to go ahead and pre-register them at vaccinate.virginia.gov. What'll happen is, as the district that you work in or live in, if they qualify under their for other reasons. So, for example, if somebody is 50 years old and has high blood pressure, and they work as a construction worker, so they would qualify into 1C based on their essential worker personnel. They would qualify into 1B based on their underlying condition. So I think however they qualify, they will be pulled from that list and offered an invitation to a vaccination event. Now, you as an employer might want to do on-site vaccination as a benefit to your employees. And sometimes those kinds of efforts actually lead to increased uptake, right? People see their colleagues doing it. They see that this is a good thing and they want to contribute. They wouldn't have necessarily gone out of their way to pre-register themselves, but you're bringing the vaccine to me, I might as well get it done. Like, that would actually be great. And so I think there's two pathways there. One, if you have the ability to contract an outside provider, we can send vaccine and just make it happen. We can schedule a date and figure that out. Those typically happen pretty quickly, right? Somebody's contracted a provider, they're already approved through the CDC, and we just pick a date and order the vaccine. The other would be if you don't have those resources available to you, or want to rely on the availability of a pharmacy or some other vaccinating entity, they can try to create what's called a closed pod, a closed point of dispensing, an internal vaccination for your team. You just may have to wait a little bit longer for that to happen based on the availability of a pharmacy or other provider to do that. If you want to do that, I would say go ahead and email Megan Green, and Megan. Megan is our point person on coordinating all of these employer-based clinics, and I think you all have her contact information.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, and we can get that out. We have Megan's in my office. So Megan Green, I'll just say it's MEAGHAN.Green, spelled like the color, at governor, spelled out, .virginia, spelled out, .gov. And yes, Governor in Virginia is very easy to misspell, so just double check. I do it all the time, my own email address. Yeah, so Megan Green's done a fantastic job of connecting to employers. So I'm going to go back and ask you a question because we got another similar question, Dr. Davula. Who can I connect with my employees? Who can I connect with to get my employees vaccinated? So you kind of gave that. So is this an email to Megan Green, or is there a specific person at the local health department, or Megan Green's going to refer people to the local health department? And then you also mentioned more of not VDH, but possibly a pharmacy to partner with. Are you partnering with pharmacies through the VDH or on your own?
So all of the allocation, comes through the state, through VDH, or there's a bunch of it that goes directly to pharmacies, although we technically have a hand in that as well. So I think it will be difficult to go out and find a pharmacy partner on your own. I think it's much more streamlined to just go ahead and reach out to us, and we can do some of that work of identifying a pharmacy who would actually come on site and do vaccination. If you have a relationship with your local health department, that would be an option too, to just reach out directly to your local health department. That in some ways would be preferred if all of your employees are in one place. We have a lot of requests from people who have different outposts in different districts, and so it becomes easier to coordinate that from the central level. But either way, if you don't know your local health department, a lot of folks don't, we're happy to make that connection for you.
Great. Thank you. And I think that was like one of the other questions we got, about 130 employees across 15 locations in Greater Richmond. And I think that I get that question a lot as well. What is the best way to get my employees vaccinated? And so that would be to reach out to the state, to Megan Green.
Yep, great.
Yeah. Another question is, one of our members volunteered their site to conduct mass vaccinations for its workforce and suppliers. The local health department charged them $18 per hour for personnel and $45 per shot. Is this normal? How can they charge for a shot that's paid by the federal funds?
Definitely not normal, and I would love to hear more about that if that was the case. Nobody should be charging anybody for the vaccination itself. The vaccines are federally funded, so no charge. That should never be a barrier for anybody to get vaccinated. There are situations where a provider can actually charge insurance for the administration fees. So, if you sign up at a CVS or Walgreens or any pharmacy, they'll ask you for your insurance card or insurance information. And that's not a barrier to vaccination. Like they should still vaccinate you regardless. But the federal government has instructed them to first try and charge insurance for that $20 or so administration fee that the nurse or the pharmacist gets for their time. If they don't have insurance, then the federal government covers that cost out of another bucket. But that's why somebody might ask you for insurance. But certainly no governmental entity should charge you for the vaccine, and no private provider can charge you for the vaccine itself.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. Another question is there a platform through which we can register all of our employees for vaccination? We're in heavy civil construction in Culpeper, Charlottesville, and Roanoke.
Yeah, so that would clearly fall into 1C, and there's probably people within that who qualify as 1B based on underlying condition or perhaps based on age. The place to register all of your employees is vaccinate.virginia.gov. There's not a way to kind of do a bulk upload where if you had a spreadsheet of all your employees, there's no way to do that into the system. I think your best bet would be to either have somebody doing the entry for the employees, or to send that link. Or they can also go to the call center, in particular if you have non-English speaking employees. The call center, which is 1-877-VAX-IN-VA, VAX-IN-VA, has about 10% of our agents are bilingual English-Spanish. And then you also have the option to get called back in over 100 different languages. So if you direct somebody there and they speak a language that's not English or Spanish, they'll get called back by a language interpreter.
Great. That's amazing to have 10%. That's awesome. If you have any other questions, you can please put that in the YouTube chat. One of the other handouts we have is around, in my space, we talk about employer liability, about questions you can ask your employees. And so we do have that in FAQs as well, about your relationship with your employees, what you can and can ask about vaccinations. And so that information will also be part of the FAQ. Specifically, there's a worker section and an employer section. So here's another question. What can a company do with offices? I think, so this is kind of goes back to the same question of what can a company do with offices spread across the state? We've had luck in some local health districts and not others. And so is it best to coordinate still through the locals, or do you think it's to again, go back to the state level?
Yeah, it might, the issue may be that if you're a 1C employer, for example, that some districts are still in 1B, in which case though the individuals in that district would likely have to wait. What we've been doing when we've been coordinating these centrally, if it's a 1C employer, we're just scheduling them out because I know that everybody's going to be in 1C likely by the end of next week, if not the beginning of the following week. And so I've just been scheduling them out the second week of April and beyond, because that gives us confidence that nobody's going to be jumping the line and everybody can feel good about that timeline. I think you got two options. Either you keep working with your local health district once they flip over into 1C, or feel free to email Megan Green and we'll figure it out.
Great. Well, good. I think that's all the questions we have. So I think thank you so much for everyone being on this call. I know after we turn off, you all have additional questions, or when you start talking to your employees or other coworkers, you might have additional questions. I think a lot of answer was contact Megan Green if you have any. But I really want to thank everyone on this call, Dr. Avola, for your work. It's pretty amazing. We've been talking about vaccinations for so long, and it's, at the end of the week, it's pretty amazing. I've worked vaccination clinics as a volunteer, like a secret volunteer. The tears I see of happiness is pretty amazing. And my job is to make sure we can open up businesses so people can go back to work. And I really appreciate all that everyone's done to make sure our workers are safe. And I also want to thank definitely the team to put this marketing materials together with Green Sync Communications. I think it's fantastic. And again, we'd love to have additional feedback on this. And we definitely want to hear the good stories about how hopefully it's encouraged more and more workers and employees to be vaccinated. So I appreciate everyone's time tonight and all that you do. And again, thank you for all that you do. And, fingers crossed, workers, everyone's getting excited about being vaccinated. So thank you.